welcome back. Now, Ambassador, we talk a lot about dancing and singing. And what other activities? I understand there's also Indian handicraft, art exhibitions. What else? What else?
Well, let's say there were 4 other segments broadly.
Okay.
So once we brought live handicraftsmen who were actually making things and showing the commonality of India and Indonesia in many ways. Yeah. And we did these as part of 2 mall promotions, which went on very well. Then we also had, a kind of films being shown with documentaries.
Right.
And this time, the films that we showed were all in Bahasa Indonesia.
Of course.
So we are showing
you
them
mean
once.
Subtitled the Bahasa?
No, dubbed
in Bahasa Indonesia.
So we are showing them once a week at the embassy because there's such a big demand for them. Right. We also had fashion. So we partnered with the Jakarta Fashion Week, and we had the Indonesia Fashion Week, and we had an Indian designer invited, and who showed his collection and was extremely popular.
Yeah.
Similarly, we partnered with Miss India Indonesia, and they were a Sahabat India event. Yeah. And it was really very nice to meet about 20 or more young Indian Indonesians.
Yeah.
Absolutely delighted because they were a real bridge. I mean, it's lovely to see an Indian face who only speaks Bahasa Indonesia, born and brought up in Indonesia. I mean, these were important. So for us, the diaspora was important. Yeah. So this is what we did. Another part was art exhibitions. So we had Indian art from India, and we had local Indian artists and Indonesian artists coming together. So we did exhibitions in Samarang, we did an exhibition in Jakarta, and we put them together. We also had a very interesting exhibition called Merging Metaphors, which came from an India-ASEAN art workshop in Darjeeling in 2012 with 2 artists from Yogyakarta. And we did that in Medan, we did that in Bali, we did it in the National Gallery here, and it ended up finally in Jogja, and it was very well received.
Yeah.
So there have been many. One of the other interesting things which I learnt myself was in India, I didn't know we had wayang.
Oh, wow.
So we brought wayang.
Did you just discover this during
I discovered it when they came here.
Really?
And we had these wonderful wayang performances of large Indian leather puppets, all from the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, performing in Jogja and Solo. And it was quite an eye-opener that we had so much in common with them.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the history of wayang itself, like you say, Mahabharata, and it's not a very strange or unfamiliar culture. It's just that perhaps you have not seen it being played or performed in other cultures rather than the Javanese puppet. Now, earlier you mentioned interesting when you said the Indian movies are being dubbed in Indonesian. Why not might as introduce or play the movies in its original language?
Well, you know, in 2013 was the centenary of Bollywood cinema.
Yes.
So at that year, the embassy showed movies in original language. So this year we just decided to be different and say, okay, now we show you the movies in Bahasa Indonesia, a different kind of audience. And this time it was not only focused in Jakarta. We had these movies shown in Bali, in Medan, in Surabaya, and many other places. So we have taken them out to different places, and we have even presented copies to different universities. So where, you know, in many universities we are opening India corners. And we opened the Indian corner recently in UNM in Makassar, where we give movies, we give books, we give tourism, literature, and the students use it in the library to acquire information on India.
And is this happening during the festival? Or?
Yes. Okay. Well, some happened before, but during the festival we opened about half a dozen.
At the same time.
The other thing which we have done is we have brought more Indian naval ships and Coast Guard ships to visit Indonesia, Bali, Belawan, Jakarta, Surabaya. And we have come almost 3 times during the festival period to show goodwill. So I think this has been another important part. And these are great occasions because there's a band playing, we have a reception on board, the young cadets of Indonesia and the cadets of India work together. So some of them have been training ships, some Coast Guard ships, and some Navy ships. The other day we had a tanker, a very big one. So they were at Tanjung Priok, and we had a very nice reception on board.
Yes, I heard that. The dinner, on the big ferry. So it's coming from water, it's coming from land as well. And so it's interesting. I'd like to go back to when you're pointing out the areas in which youth are gathering, are convening. Now, do you see a difference, like you see, in the pop culture, as in where youth are now more interested in gathering in places of interest like the malls or the cafes or the lounge? But you mentioned viharas, you mentioned house of worships. Did you actually engage a lot of conversation and met a lot of youth there as well?
You see, when we did the malls, that was for a different kind of culture. It was more pop. But we would show the yoga, we would show the Indian dance, we would show some Bollywood dance, and we would bring in an exhibition and generally try and attract people. What we did was that we also have a very strong religious connect between India and Indonesia, whether it is Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism. So we had a very interesting exhibition. It's called The Islamic Heritage of India. It is done by a famous photographer called Binoy Behel. Now, this exhibition is unique. But I was going to show that exhibition, but I got Binoy about 2 years ago to come to Indonesia, and he took pictures of Indonesia's Islamic heritage, which has not been yet curated into an exhibition. But I told Binoy, if you are going to do your exhibition here, I don't want to show only India. I want to show Indonesia as well. So Binoy very kindly sent me 25 pictures, not yet exhibited, of what he took
from
in
his
Indonesia.
past work here.
So we put the exhibition out jointly. And we opened it at the Istiqlal Mosque. And when we opened it, there were about 200 school children who came to the inauguration. And then we have taken this exhibition to the Islamic State universities. We have taken it to Makassar, we have taken it to Bali, we've taken it to Medan, Surabaya. So it's been traveling around. And I think that is an effective way of going in, because you go into the mosque, you go into the Islamic vihara places. Where the viharas are concerned, we also have a Buddhist exhibition. Showing in the footsteps of the Shakyamuni Buddha, which talks about the old links between Nalanda and Muara Jambi. So that exhibition started at Arma in Bali, and later went to Medan, and we had it twice in Jakarta. First at the National Museum, and later at a Buddhist vihara in West Jakarta. So it has been an interesting journey.
It's very interesting because it's not only displaying what we have today, but you try to find the root where it connects, where where two cultures